Okay. So can everybody see this, the PowerPoint? Let's start there. Is that
Yes.
okay? You thumb up. Okay, so good afternoon or more, wherever you are. Might be morning, might be afternoon. I'm Sally Lipsky in the Tahiti Islands now. Plant-Based Pittsburgh has moved its headquarters. So welcome. So I'm going to start with a PowerPoint about just a little bit of basic information about bowls. And we're going to turn this over to Linda Jones, Brittany Giroudi, and Dr. Sandra Sobel, who is here from Summons Health. And yes. And they will proceed with what you're probably most interested in is how to. So everybody who registered will get a link with the recording, and you also get somebody just shared something.
I don't know who owner is. It looks like they're sharing their screen. There you go.
Okay, now it's back, right?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, so let's get into this part here. So let's get in. Okay. Advantages of power bowls. Okay, so we know that they are all in one bowl. So all your meal, it can be simple, very creative, as you will see the people that are working on the creativity after I finish talking. Lots of nutrition, use of leftovers, and you can do it for company, family, different tastes. So I'm just going to give you, and you will get this, but just generally, what are the 4 parts of a power bowl? There is the grain or the starchy bottom, and that's your foundation, because we know that the body runs well. The fuel is the complex carbohydrates, to the grains, the starchy vegetables, even legumes. And then we want to add some, of course, non-starchy vegetables and fruit, and I put greens in there too, because a variety of greens. A protein, but we know in plant-based eating that the protein also comes from not just the beans or not just the soy curls or whatever, but we get it also in our grains, starches, and condiments. So in other words, the flavoring that you would want for step 4. So this is just a quick overview of, okay, when you're thinking what grains, there's such a variety of grains. And if you're new or newish to this plant-based eating, you can explore. I mean, I haven't tasted all the grains that are available, but I put a list here of a number and of grains and what they're like, if gluten, not gluten, what are some of the ways that you can use it. And the other thing that you'll get when the recording comes out with this will all be in a PDF, you'll get this cooking guide, just to give you an idea of the grains and how much time do you like traditional cooking, I should say. And then we add our step 2, our greens, non-starchy vegetables and fruit. And it doesn't have to be fresh. We know that here in Pennsylvania. But you can rely heavily on frozen, canned, so because you'll still get the nutrients in, especially frozen or flash frozen. Protein, of course, legumes are the best, wonderful way of getting protein, but also then you can get the meat substitutes like seitan and tofu. And I said, yeah, veggie burgers, be careful of if you're getting the ones that are already made, because they're oftentimes they are very high in fat and sodium. So be aware of that one. And then what flavoring do you want? And this is just a quick shopping list here of various flavorings that you will do. Nutritional yeast, if you're not familiar again with it as an inactive yeast as a flavoring, like a cheese-like flavoring, I did put that in there. And let's look at some beautiful pictures, just like work of arts here. Okay, so this is a Moroccan bowl, and you will see that it is a beautiful different array. It's like a collage of plant foods. Breakfast bowl, this is an example. Now Linda today will actually show you and give you recipes. You'll get recipes for more breakfast bowls. Another breakfast bowl with sorghum, which I haven't even done this one yet, but I should because I'd like to try it. And here's a lunch or dinner bowl that Brittany did. But as I said, look at the colors, look at the nutrients, because you're really getting that synergy of the different colored plant foods. I love farro as a grain, sort of a nutty flavor to it. And this is one that Judy called a leftovers bowl, where you just look in the refrigerator and see, okay, or pantry, what is left over? How can I throw it in on a plate or in a bowl or whatever? And this is an edible taco bowl. So what Judy did is she took the taco shells and put it in a one of those fancy, like a cupcake holder, and baked it quickly so that she got that shape of the bowls. That would be nice for a special occasion. You want to impress people. And then here's a couple example of dressings, the dressings without oil, without fats down. And you can see the one on the right side is how, again, Judy did this one where she put everything in a jar and just sort of let it break down and became its own dressing. And then you will be getting this along with the PDF, is just some examples from the Kim Campbell, the Plant Pure Chef, on different types of bowls that you can do by different cuisines, and play around. As always, you're just sort of like coming up with something that works for you and your family. So just a few tips is shopping lists do help. If you're new to this, have a list with you, and I say stock up on favorites, and make a lot. Like if I make grains, I will make triple batch so that I can always put some in the freezer. As much as you need. if you need, I buy the pre-minced garlic, pre-minced ginger, pre-chopped. So make it fit as if you're starting on plant-based eating. You want to make it fit your lifestyle, your sense of convenience. Especially if you're working, say, doing Monday through Friday. A lot of people use Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon as a prep time so that you can just have things washed, ready, and just put it in the refrigerator and just grab it out whenever you need it during the week. Some utensils, like I would say, I don't remember a day where I haven't used my powerful blender. But again, crock pots, instant pots, pressure microwaves, all those utensils that it's really worth the time to get something that will work for you and is good and in your lifestyle. And as I said earlier, make lots of, I am so glad when I look in my freezer and I see that baggie full of cooked rice or those potatoes that I had baked an extra sweet potatoes and I put the rest in the freezer. So the last slide here, I just want you to be aware, if you're not aware, that Plant-Based Pittsburgh is an all-volunteer nonprofit, and we work towards just creating a community of health based on whole food, plant-based food choices. This is one of our monthly meetings, but we also, if you haven't already signed up for the newsletter, you can do that online. Go to plantbasedpittsburgh.com. And next Saturday, we are having an interesting, it's mushrooms in the fascinating world of fungi. And we have Luke Mitchell's coming. And he is going, if you're local, you can go to the Murraysville Library. If not, you can register on Zoom, watch it. We will record it and we'll have some mushroom recipes, of course. But it's fascinating to learn about the different types of mushrooms. So unless there's a question, I am going to turn it over to, I'm going to stop the share here. And are there any questions before I turn it over to the three people in the kitchen?
That's the kitchen dance, Sally.
Okay, I love it. Yeah. Love the kitchen dance. Yeah, I'm trying to pin you. Okay, here we go. Okay, how's that? Can everybody see now?
And can you hear us?
Okay, kitchen folks, you do your thing.
Well, we'll just real quick introduce ourselves. So we're so lucky to be here with an endocrinologist from Pittsburgh who also does telemedicine. And we're in her space. Maybe at the end we can show you guys around real quick, but this kitchen is so beautiful. So we're really lucky to be here. Usually we're in the library, hauling Vitamixes and food processors and ovens with us. So it was really nice just to bring the food and have all the appliances. So do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Dr. Sandra Sobel, and Summon Health, you can see the product placement, is my business. And it is a direct care metabolic health clinic. And so I focus on metabolic health, and what that means are medical conditions really focused around insulin resistance, like metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, even fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, as well as obesity or excess weight management. And it's a comprehensive approach. And one of the main focuses of this approach is on nutrition. And so I do plant-based nutrition counseling, and it became very apparent to me that instead of just talking about it, it was important to demonstrate. And so, as Brittany said, this is part of my office. I have a teaching kitchen here in my space where we can make plant-based meals and highlight the importance of fiber, the importance of keeping saturated fat down and really highlighting ingredients that are as unprocessed and unrefined as possible. And really, I think you mentioned this earlier, Sally, really people can see how creative they can get with their plant-based meal. So it's my really it's my privilege to have you guys here demonstrating all this wonderful work that you've been doing for years. And so I do offer telehealth also, and I'll just mention the states I do that. I'm licensed in New York, Florida, Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Indiana. So welcome everyone.
So if you're in those states, you should reach out and see more about it. But we're so lucky to be here. Me and Linda are part of Plant-Based Pittsburgh, and we're both on the board. So we love doing these cooking demos for you guys. My name is Brittany. I run the website, The Drudy Family, with tons of recipes and all of that. And Linda's going to be here today going first. So if you want to.
Yeah, breakfast bowls, but I have to thank Sally for that PowerPoint. I've been following Sally. I'm a groupie of hers. I've been following her 8 or 9 years, and I always learn both from Sally and from Brittany. So thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So we're going to start out, and my children probably are rolling their eyes, but your alarm goes off, ding, 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 ring, ring, ring. Your alarm goes off on your clock or maybe your phone, and it's time to get up and you want to eat breakfast. And what do you eat? Well, I have answers for you. So we're going to start out with a basic breakfast bowl. I'm going to put in oats. You're going to be getting all these recipes. 3/4 cup rolled oats, and we'll talk about different grains in a minute. I also have a tablespoon of chia seeds in here and a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. We can mix that together. And this is a basic bowl that you can build from. Then I'm going to add equal amount of liquid. It can be water, or it can be a unsweetened plant milk, or half of each. I use water, and I can't tell much difference in the end product. So I'm going to add the water right now. And everything gets stirred. And you can tell it's pretty loose. It's pretty loose now. But it does tighten up overnight.
Right, because those grains really absorb the liquid.
Right, and the chia seeds too. Okay.
So what I share with people is chia seeds are such a wonderful thing to stock up. Can you guys see the consistency?
Yeah.
Yeah. So chia seeds are wonderful. They bring in a lot of fiber. They also bring in a lot of protein. And they're a great source of iron as well. So it really is such a wonderful seed.
So I made on this recipe, this is for one person. I made on this recipe 2 optional ingredients. One is a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract or vanilla powder. Sometimes I put it in, most times I do not. I can't tell much difference. So if I'm in a hurry, I want to eat a quick breakfast, or I want to plan ahead, I leave that out. The second ingredient that's optional is up to a tablespoon of maple syrup, date paste, an extra sweetener. And the reason I made that optional is that most of the toppings people put on their oats, their oat bowls, and you can use other grains, we'll talk about that, are sweet. So I don't want sweetness in my oats. And I don't want sweetness on the toppings. That's like double sweet. I have found since going whole food plant-based that my taste buds have changed. They've become much sharper. And I'll always have a sweet tooth, but my sweet tooth, I need much less sweetener now than I did, say, 10 years ago. So this bowl does not have any additional sweetness in it.
We did get one question, and I think the doctor will be able to answer it. I've heard that you need to absorb the chia seeds, you need to grind them first. Is that true?
No, that's not true. For the chia seeds, you can put them whole in. What needs to happen with the chia seeds is that they do need to expand. So that's why you need the liquid, whether it's water or the unsweetened plant-based milk. Give it time to expand, and that's how they work. What you're thinking of are flax seeds. And so in order for flax seeds to give the nutritive properties that they offer, those need to be ground. Thanks for asking.
It's a good question.
Okay. So this gets mixed up. One comment I do want to make. if I do add extra sweetener, I always stick with date products. I like date sugar. And also date syrup.
Where did you get those from, Linda?
I got these online, although the East End Food Co-op in Pittsburgh sells these products, but it's by the Date Lady. You can also make your own date paste with water and dates.
And I'll tell you,
in a blender.
the date syrup too, Trader Joe's, at least locally, carries date syrup, organic date syrup. And so you can try to look at some local like specialty grocers too.
So also I wanted to show you something. These bowls are very portable. If you have a good, if you have to grab and go and you're on the way out the door and you don't have time to eat, I have a bowl that I can put my overnight oats in and take it with me. So you never have to be worried what you're going to have in the morning. So I made a few bowls last night. So we'll move this aside. And I wanted to show you favorite ways that I top. There's a lot of variety here. You can do what you like.
I can be the one demonstrating. Gravity is going to take effect and start sliding off. But
So for the most mornings, I put in some berries, strawberries, blueberries, and as Sally mentioned, these fruits can be fresh or frozen. I like apple slices. These apple slices I steam, but you can use just cut up a raw apple, a little more cinnamon. And as I mentioned, these toppings are sweet, so I don't need to sweeten my oats before I put them in the refrigerator. And this is a favorite, although all these are favorite. I just find the toppings very good. This is banana slices and peanuts. Now, I have never, or I rarely eat them cold, but I had my grandchildren over a few weeks ago and we did overnight oats. So if you have kids in your life and you want to get them involved in whole food plant-based eating and cooking, we had jars and I had Sharpie markers that are good for glass, and the kids decorated. They decorated their jars.
that's adorable.
And then the night before, they put their oats together, they put them together. And then in the morning, they could put toppings on. So this is a great way to get the kids involved and get enthusiastic about this way of eating.
Mandy asked, how long do you have to let the chia seeds like soak before you can absorb them?
Great question. So give it at least 5 minutes for it to absorb. So it doesn't take that long actually for chia seeds to expand. And then what Linda's demonstrating are overnight. So obviously they'll be fully expanded by then. But if you're doing something like quicker, 5 minutes is enough time.
And these bowls,
Я в порядке, окей, слушаю. Окей?
it's recommended that you let them soak between all the ingredients 2 hours and up to 2 days. You can prepare them, but that has to go in the refrigerator. So we'll put these aside. Those are just some.
And especially when they're in the jar too, you were mentioning portable, like it's such a great way to, I know sometimes people are like, oh, I have to rush out to work, I'm running out of the house with the kids, or whatever commitment you have. And you can just prepare a bunch of these in your mason jar, or whatever jar you have that's portable. Leave it in the fridge for the week, for the 5 days of the week, and then you just grab and go, and you have the different toppings that Linda demonstrated.
I wanted to show you this. I found this at Trader Joe's. It's gluten-free, gluten-free organic rolled oats with ancient grains and seeds. So it's rolled oats, amaranth, quinoa, chia seeds, and ground flax seeds. So that's nice. I scooped that out. Now, if you like your oatmeal bowls a little soupier, I do a 2-to-1, 2 parts liquid to 1 part grain. But it's up to you. The one that we just did is a 1-to-1 ratio. So this is good. We'll talk about, this is probably a good time to talk about grains. I was fortunate a couple of years ago to hear a seminar by Brenda Davis, a world-renowned nutritionist and dietitian, and she talked about grains. There's a lot of confusion about what are whole grains. So she demonstrated with a chart similar to this. The most nutritious of the grains are at the top, and as you go down in the triangle, they're more and more processed. So I wanted to make you aware that the top are intact grains, spelt berries, quinoa, oat groats, and sprouted grains. Basically, grains have endosperm, germ, and bran. The second category is bulgur or steel cut oats, cut or broken. And these two categories, you have to fully cook them before you can put them in an oat bowl or prepare an oat bowl like I just did. Next category is rolled. That's what we're using today. Rolled oats, they're a little flattened, a little more processed. Rolled oats, rolled spelt, rolled buckwheat. And that's what we have now. And then further down the list is shredded wheat. I mean, I make an energy bar with shredded wheat in it. I just make sure that it doesn't have extra oil or salt or sugar put in it. Then there's whole grain flours. I've switched out my all-purpose flour. I only use whole grain flours now, whole wheat flour, spelt flour. Then we go down to flaked products, flaked breakfast cereals, puffed rice, puffed wheat. So as you go down on the triangle, when you're at the bottom, those are the very most processed products. And
We'll take a photo of this too, so you guys have it with your email.
I remember Brenda Davis talking, she said it drives her absolutely crazy. Manufacturers strip the grains and they're probably just, when they're down here, just left with endosperm. So you lose up to 80–85% of the phytochemicals, the nutrients and the fiber. She said, so you're down here and then the manufacturers add sugar, salt and fats to make cookies and pastries and cakes. So that being said, I've been doing this for 8 or 9 years and the food police have never come to my house. So don't worry. About it. I mean, I try to stick with whole grains and near the top as much as I can, but as I say, I've used these flours and used other things quite easily. So that's just a little bit of
Terry asked a question. She said about preparing overnight oats, and do you find the resistant starch more like a prebiotic as well when you're eating them? Do you see benefits from consuming them almost as a resistant starch as well?
I really can't comment about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, when we're talking about the gut microbiome and the important role that it plays in health, and especially when we're talking about metabolic health, insulin resistance. So we want to try to help promote the just the population of healthy gut bacteria and keep the population of unhealthy gut bacteria to a minimum. And so the healthy gut bacteria, those are the probiotics that you hear about so often, and certain foods are wonderful natural sources of probiotics. However, if you're going to have these living organisms that benefit our health, we want to make sure they can survive by giving them the right food to survive. So what is that food? That food is a prebiotic, the prebiotic that feeds the probiotic. And what is the prebiotic? It's fiber, right? And so if we can get the prebiotic from the foods that are naturally ripe in fiber, why not do that as much as possible instead of having to take additional supplements? And there's nothing against, you know, pre and probiotic supplements. If you need them, then you need them, and that's a discussion you have with your trusted health professional. However, this is a demonstration how you can get that naturally from the foods that we buy in the grocery store, especially if it's in the more intact, the more fiber rich it is.
We had 2 more questions. With overnight oats in the morning, do you eat them cold or warm them up again?
I'm glad you asked that. I've always warmed them up. If you take it out of the refrigerator, if you take it out of the refrigerator and it's pretty dense, you might want to add a warm liquid to it, additional liquid, or you can put it all in the microwave. I've always gone warm, but a few weeks ago, I said when the kids slept over and they woke up in the morning, pure chaos in my house. We just grabbed our jars and I ate overnight oats cold for the first time, and I shocked myself. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So try both ways and
Definitely.
see what you're in the mood for.
And then the last question is it beneficial to use organic oats?
I try to. I'm not sure if you
Yeah,
have to do it
so-
all the time, but I try to.
And this, I guess this is just the organic question in general, right? So it's a big topic for another time, but basically, if you have the availability and if you have the means to get organic, great. If you can't, no problem. That is not a limiting factor for being plant-based.
Right.
And so again, it's the effort that you're making for your health that really matters. And organic also has, it's beneficial for the environment and the practices that they put in. But if that's not available near you, don't let that be the limiting factor for trying plant-based things.
Right, absolutely. So let me jump in with batch cooking. We have a friend pre-COVID that attended Sally's monthly classes in Murrysville Library, Phil, and he gave us a recipe for his oats in an Instapot. If you have an Instapot, this is a great recipe. 1 cup of steel cut oats, so those are the oats that clear the top. 4 cups of water and a 1/4 cup of lentils. He puts them in the mixes them, puts them in the Instapot, high pressure for 20 minutes and then natural release for 10 minutes. And you have your oats for the better part of the week. And it's more a savory. They're delicious. Try it. I like it, and I bet you will too. So that's something you can do if you're into batch cooking. Okay, we have another bowl to do. It's a little more savory with the addition of carrots. So we're going to start out with our, this is again, to save space and time, this is my mixture of oats and cinnamon, nutmeg, and flax meal, a tablespoon. That goes into the bowl. And stir it up a little bit.
So she said flax meal, which means it's
Flax
just already
meal.
grounded.
Okay. Then we have, this is the savory ingredient, 1/2 cup finely shredded carrots. And stir that up. Okay. Then we're going to add, I have 2, you could do raisins, but I do like dates. I have 2 visual dates that have been chopped up. And crammed into this container. That's I'm good.
Okay.
A little slower than you can stir that up. I had it. So unlike the first bowl, this bowl, the liquid does not go in now. It goes in the morning before you eat it. And then just a tablespoon of chopped walnuts, everything you like in carrot cake. Stir that up. We have the rolled oats, the carrots, the majol dates, the flaxseed meal, the cinnamon, nutmeg, and walnuts. That's what that looks like. Then this gets covered and refrigerated. And the next morning before you're ready to eat, we have 1 cup. So the ratio of liquid to grains, and this is 2 to 1. We had just a 1/2 cup of oats. But the next morning, we need a cup of unsweetened plant milk, 1 cup water, or as I said, 1/2 and 1/2. And your bowl is ready to go. It smells delicious. It really does. It smells really good. So that's another option. So a few years ago, February is Heart Health Month. February is Valentine's Day. I made this recipe minus the liquid or the water and milk. And I gave it as presents to my friends. It looks very nice. I layered it in a mason jar with the recipe and what they had to do the next morning or the next day to eat it by adding a cup of unsweetened plant milk or water. So, and lo and behold, on this tag is Dr. Sobel's name.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Let's give this to Dr. Sobel.
Thank you. So if I answer the phone and you guys hear me muffled, it's probably because I'm eating this. Thank you so much.
So I was going to do one last bowl, but I read a magazine and I got another bowl. I mean, I get so excited about this lifestyle of eating because it's so nutritious and it's so enjoyable to me. So I have kind of my next to the last bowl. My next to the last bowl is definitely savory. It's a tofu scramble bowl. This is a good recipe to have under your belt because there's a few things you can do with tofu scramble bowl. First of all, we'll start. There's vegetables and there's the tofu mixture. And the recipe I'm going to talk about today is for 4 people. The recipe you'll get from Sally's notes is just for 1 person, but it's hard to cut a block of tofu into quarters and to sections. So I just make the whole thing. And my house leftovers never last too long. If you have the leftover tofu scramble, which you'll see in a minute, you can make a breakfast burrito. You can put some hashed brown potatoes alongside of it for breakfast. Or I've even put it in a bell pepper, scooped out bell pepper cup and eaten it that way. So leftovers are never leftovers too long in our house. So to start out, we need a cup of chopped mushrooms, a cup of chopped onions, and a cup of chopped peppers that I water saute. I never use oil, I use water, just a little bit of water. And 2 cloves of garlic, if you remember. Sometimes I forget the garlic, and you can always put garlic powder in later. So that happily gets sauteing together. On the side, I have a bowl of kale ready to go, or spinach. Today I use spinach. If you're going to use spinach, that's a more delicate lettuce or leaf. So we're not going to put it in so early. If you're using kale, which is sturdier, you can put the kale in. So that gets incorporated all together, heated through on a low heat. Then in a separate bowl, you have a package of extra firm tofu that you rinse and drain and maybe pat dry. Crumble the tofu up in the bowl, and then you need some seasonings for the tofu. You need turmeric, a dash of pepper, nutritional yeast, and Dijon mustard. That makes a really nice seasoning. That makes the tofu look like scrambled eggs. The turmeric colors it a little bit. Then the tofu mixture gets put into the pan, the bowl or the pan with the vegetables that have been cooking. Check and see before you put the tofu in. You don't want too much liquid, maybe 3 to 4 tablespoons of liquid, because the tofu has some liquid itself. So you want to put the tofu mixture that's been seasoned in with the vegetables, let that heat, and then you're ready to serve it. I did this last night, and I'll show you what it looks like. It really does look like,
I know.
it does look like scrambled eggs and vegetables. This is the tofu scramble. And this is how we're going to plate it today. We're in a bowl. And as I said, this feeds 4, or maybe in our house only 3. We're going to put tofu scramble in. And I did use spinach, so I added spinach at the very end.
We got one question about where do you find compliant burritos or wraps to make a breakfast burrito?
I use Ezekiel brand at the East End Food Co-op sells,
I think they're in Canada
and they can be ordered.
or North Carolina.
So another like tip or trick, and Brittany, you might know this better, but when you just take them out of the package, they're less compliant. And so you just want to heat it up a little bit. So you can put it in some damp paper towels to warm it up a little bit, or even on the stovetop in your skillet, just warm it up a little bit. Don't crisp it, because then it's definitely gonna like just snap. But if it's a little bit warmer, then it's much more likely to form without tearing.
Yeah, I agree. And if you keep them in the refrigerator too, just take them apart very slowly because they like to stick together sometimes.
Right.
A grain, we need a grain. And today I chose quinoa. Don't be afraid to use other grains. They're very tasty and versatile. And I do batch cooking grains.
Yeah.
I probably like once or twice a month I'll spend 4 or 5 hours doing a lot of batch cooking, because I like to grab food out and prepare it for dinner when I'm in a hurry or tired at the end of the day. But I freeze these in 1 cup containers. So this is what I took from my freezer. So we're going to add quinoa on the side. Okay, then we're going to add a little bit, and these next few ingredients are optional, but we're going to put salsa. And I watch my sodium intake, so I'm really cognizant of that. A little bit of salsa goes on top. We have some pumpkin Caesar pepitas.
Oh, those are one of my favorite. I love pepitas.
And we do, if you want to, a few slices of avocado.
And
The avocado gods were not on my side. I only got a few slices out that we just had some issues with avocados. But this is what that looks like when it's all done. And this is just a quarter of the tofu mixture, tofu
Yeah.
scramble, 1 cup of quinoa, and the additional toppings.
Linda, if I could just highlight something that you said, but I think is really important for people to just keep in mind. Because sometimes they can be, they'll say like, oh, I don't like leftovers, or nobody else in my house eats leftovers. And sometimes we get it in our head that leftovers have to be the same exact meal each time. But what you had said is, look at this tofu scramble, which makes a lot, is going to save you time the following days, but then you just make it in a different way. You put it in a tortilla, right? To make a breakfast burrito, you put it in the bell pepper, and you can, you know, bake it like that. So you don't have to always just make it this way. You can put it in different, you know, as a burrito or as a stuffed pepper. And now it's a different meal that didn't take 20, 30, 40 minutes to make. And it's still leftovers.
And it's still delicious,
And so
really.
delicious.
And you feel good about, after you're done eating, you feel, your body feels good.
Yeah.
You appreciate
Absolutely.
what you're consuming. So this was to be my last bowl, but then I read a magazine a few weeks ago. And the title caught my eye, apple pie smoothie bowl. So you'll get the recipe, but I just have to tell you about it briefly because it's so good. This makes 2 to 3 bowls, or 2 or 3 servings, 2 large ripe bananas, 1 large apple core, 2/3 cup rolled oats, a 1/2 cup of water or unsweetened plant milk, 4 large Medjool dates that have been pitted and chopped up, 2 teaspoons cinnamon, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, goes in the blender, plus, here it is, 1.5 cups steamed cauliflower. You will never in a million years think that you are eating cauliflower when you make this. It is really very good. A few weeks ago on a Saturday, my husband and I had early breakfast, early lunch, early dinner. Like 7:30 at night, we're looking at each other like, we got the munchies, what can we eat? Because we had an early dinner like at 4:30 or 5. We decided to make this apple pie bowl, and it was just so satisfying. We just sat there and sipped and relaxed and really try it, and I'm sure you'll like it. So I hope I've shown you some tasty ways to
So good.
spruce up your breakfast, and no more boring breakfasts, and healthy breakfasts.
Yeah, and what I love that you showed too is like, whatever your first meal of the day is, and it doesn't matter the time, but whatever it is, you want it to be nutritious. And these are high in fiber, high in protein too, and really that sets the tone for the day. So these are wonderful. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
sharing this.
Pleasure.
Does anyone have any questions for Linda or Dr. Sobel? Everyone's saying yummy and it looks good.
It is. Oh, and it smells good. It's yum, yum, yum. All right. Brittany, how can I help?
Just bringing everything
Or
over
is this where I just
the workstation.
do the plant-based dance while we like
Yeah.
transition or? All right.
So I didn't have any like recipes prepared. I'm kind of doing this the Jeff Novick style where you guys are I like to be interactive, so you guys are gonna help me. So while we're waiting in the chat, let me know where you're viewing from, because I know most of our audience is not from Pittsburgh. So you can leave us in the comments. While I shuffle my kitchen refrigerator over. I literally went through my kitchen refrigerator this morning, just normal stuff that I would do day to day.
Do you want me to watch?
I'm just watching you bring stuff over. What can I tell them?
I'm loving spices, I'm cooking.
All right.
Oh, we have Baltimore,
And
Maryland.
then if you want to bring the blender, I can use it.
All right. I'm going to.
We're gonna figure out
It needs
our
the-
bowls together. Because this is how I make recipes, and this is, I think, how a lot of people are nervous about cooking. You know, you don't necessarily even have to have recipes. I know I share recipes and, you know, have different ebooks and all the things, but you can literally be creative and use whatever you have at home. And I really got inspired because of the pandemic, really just learning to like go through what I already had, because we all like, you might say you have nothing to eat, but then, you know, you have a fridge stocked full of stuff. So I literally brought my fridge. So let me see, West Virginia, a couple people, Ireland, I know who that is. Florida, Pittsburgh, a couple people from Pittsburgh then. Okay, so we talked about that at the beginning of the slideshow about grains and beans kind of being your staple meals. And so I brought that, and canned beans are fantastic. You can do them from scratch, but convenience, you know, most of us have some kind of bean in our pantry. So I get the no salt added beans. There's different varieties that you can find, different companies sell them. Even lentils come in a can now. So I brought chickpeas. I have brown lentils as well today. And then I also have a white bean, which is perfect for making a sauce. So depending on which route we want to go, I'm gonna leave that. One of you guys is gonna help me. I feel like Jeff Novick pulls people on stage with him. So we're gonna just like leave this open, and you guys are gonna help. Besides grains, I do have some farro cooked up. I did that this morning. So this is some farro that's cooked and just cold now. Pulled out, you can pretend you pulled it out of your fridge. I also have a different starch, which is potatoes. So I have sweet potatoes and I have Yukon Gold potatoes cooked. So again, you could be pulling that out of your fridge. And then I also have just some marinated and roasted veggies. So in here, there's Brussels sprouts, carrots, green beans, cauliflower that I just put together in a marinade and roasted. So these, again, might look very familiar to what your refrigerator looks like right now. All right, so I brought all of that. I also have, instead of canned beans, we could do some tofu. So you guys are gonna help me. I need like you guys to give me a little bit more feedback. And
I'm really excited for this.
I wish
I was that creative.
So we're gonna do it together. Do you have a plate? We got a plate, and you guys are gonna help me. So let's pick a starch. So do you want to use we can vote, but leave me a comment, or you can get on the mic either way.
There's a question, how did you make the veggie marinade?
The veggie marinade is really easy. This actually is leftovers from my membership, which comes out, but I can give you kind of the gist of it. Really easy. You can use the beans from the can and some red wine vinegar, and just put spices in it and toss it over to your veggies and let them roast. And then, you know, all of this, the liquid from the beans and the red wine vinegar act as a sticking for your spices. So really easy just to roast it. So
4 votes for farro.
okay,
Yay.
all right.
And 1 vote for potatoes.
We can do a little bit of both. Let's do like half and half then. So this is already cooked up, and you can use any whole grain. This isn't seasoned, it's just plain. Generally, I like to batch cook, or I just like to cook a bunch of different grains because it's nice to have variety. So this could have been, I have all the other bags over here, but this could have been bulgur wheat, it could have been rice, it could be quinoa, it could be something that like buckwheat that's gluten-free. You know, it doesn't really matter. I like to do variety, so I just kind of change it up so it doesn't get boring, and 2, you know, it's a different type of grain, so different types of nutrients and things like that. So I do like farro. It's kind of similar to rice, that it's chewy. And then, you know, it's nice that there's different cooking times. So like if you're in a pinch, bulgur wheat takes 2 seconds to make. So just depending on like what's going on in life, you know, sometimes I change different ones.
You know what I like about the farro too, because when you look at the instructions, it says, you know, add your water and then set it to cook. You can get creative with the fluids that you use too. So I like to use the low sodium vegetable broth to cook my farro to give it even like more flavor.
Doesn't
That's one
necessarily
of my preferences.
have to be water. It can be, it can be something else. And then there's other, like what I love about being plant-based is there's so many different grains I never heard of before. Like I was not buying this before being
This is the
plant-based.
creativity.
You know, I've heard of quinoa before. I heard of oats. You know, rice was probably the main thing I used, but you know, corn, I never heard of, black barley. So you can really have fun and find, you know, I got these all online. You can have fun and try different things you've never had before, because it does add a different texture of chewiness. And if you have kids or grandkids, you might want to try something out with them as well. I'm always about, I mean, this is the teacher in me, but the black barley around Halloween is really fun. Because it's naturally, you know, black lentils, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have my greens on here. And then, you know, you could heat this all up before so it's hot. We're doing as a demonstration. You can pick, you know, a sweet potato or just a baked Yukon Gold or any kind of potato you like, and add that. So you can do a little bit of both for our starch. And then we can build it from here. Of course, I'm gonna add some roasted veggies. I'll need your help on the sauce we're gonna do. So I can just add, and this is nice because it's already like a ton of different veggies to this.
So she has cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, carrot, green beans, broccoli. Did I miss something?
Nope, I think that's everything. Lots of cruciferous veg in there, which is really awesome.
Oh, so good.
And then I also like to do it seasonally. So in the summer, it would look much different than this. And I also really pay attention to color. So right now we're getting there. We're not quite there yet. This is all kind of brown. There's a little bit of white and orange from the sweet potato or from the carrots and the cauliflower, but you know, I might want to add some red to this and add some tomatoes. That'll give it some juice as well and kind of rehydrate things. I'm going to add some greens. So I have arugula here. So you can use any kind of greens that you like. You know, we're really big into chopped kale or even romaine hearts. So I always add like a little bit of green to this too. And this can be raw or steamed. And I also like to do kind of a combination. So maybe if I use a lot of cooked things, like I have a lot of cooked veggies, a lot of cooked greens, you know, it's sometimes easier to add a handful of chopped raw greens, vice versa. If I'm gonna have raw cauliflower, I might cook my greens and saute them. So it's just that nice balance when I build my bowls. So some greens. And then most people don't think about adding fruit to their savory dinner plates, but I also like to add fruit. So I could chop up a pear, an apple, clementines are really in season right now, or an orange. And then that also just gives it a little bit more flavor, sweetness, and you just kind of build from there. So really basic, pulling things out of the kitchen, out of the refrigerator. So we'll do two different things. We'll make some tofu really quick. I'll show you how to do that super quick and fast. If anyone doesn't like tofu, it's just because you haven't had it prepared properly. And then we'll also make like a sauce to go on top. So for the sauce, what do you think we can use? I'll give you some options. Try to get you guys more involved and engaged. Everyone needs to like wake up and stretch out, right? You know, you guys have been on Zoom for a while. So I have, let's pick a base for our recipe. We can use chickpeas, a white kidney bean, or we can use lentils. What do you choose? It's like the trivia game.
Kidney, one for kidney.
We don't have kidney. Oh, white kidney. I
Yeah,
see.
like
lentil,
yeah.
one for lentils, one for white bean,
We want to make a creamy sauce.
white bean,
Okay.
chickpeas,
So
white bean.
these three, I would give lentils the boot. Okay, I probably wouldn't go with that.
White beans.
Delicious if I want to rinse and put on top or do something else. But these two are great for making stuff creamy and delicious for a sauce. Believe it or not, you can even do it with chickpeas in a pinch. But out of these two, I probably will go with the white bean. And it doesn't have to be this white bean. It can be a white navy bean. It could be any kind of creamy white bean is a great choice. So, and there's two options. We can use the juice of the beans, which is nice if you want a thinner sauce, or we can drain and rinse if we want it to be a thicker sauce. So if you're subbing a lot of things for cashews, or if you want to thin it out, you can just, it's nice, it's like an extra step you don't have to clean up. So I'm going to open up my can.
One of the things I also just wanted to come in that you mentioned, Brittany, is like, obviously we eat, and savor the flavors, but it's really important too that we enjoy what we're looking at when we're eating it. So we eat with our eyes as well. And the color, the variety of colors that you can bring into your plate from a plant-based, approach is, there are so many options. And so yeah, take a look at your plate and see what other colors you can add. And that'll make it both visually appealing and appetizing as much as it tastes that as well.
Yeah, and you're thinking about all those different like vitamins and everything that, you know, those different colors have. So I do try to, I forget which person I learned it from, but visually look, do I have a red? Do I have an orange? You know, different things like that. Not always in a pinch can you do that, but you know, building something like this, really easy bowls, pulling leftovers out, or seeing what you have in the pantry, it can be easier than you think. So this is just the can, including the liquid. What's nice about using white beans is generally there's less liquid than chickpeas. So some, you know, in the pinch, you really don't have to drain anything for that. And then now, you know, if I blend this is just beans. So we have to give it some life. An option I can do is I can add some plant milk to thin it out even more. So I do have an unsweetened plant milk here. To give it some tartness, I have lemon juice, or even red wine vinegar is a great, or rice vinegar is a great option for a little bit of tartness. And then I also have white miso if I want to add a little bit of flavor from that, you know, saltiness without the damaging effect of salt per se. So I have some fermented miso I can add, and then my seasonings. So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to add some tartness? Would you add?
One for red wine vinegar.
We're definitely going to do the miso. I feel
One
like
miso.
miso gives it a little bit of flavor, makes it taste less like
3 votes
beans.
vinegar.
And you know, miso too, just to say, it goes a really long way. So you don't need like a ton of it. It would be really gross to get a whole mouthful of this. It lasts forever. So I just take just a little bit, you know, just a little bit goes a long way. This would make lots of sauce.
Someone's requesting a gravy type.
Gravy, generally I would probably use some mushrooms and some vegetable broth. I did not bring my gravy stuff today.
Somebody else said tart. What plant milk do you usually use?
So plant milks, I generally recommend anything but oat milk for savory dishes. Oat milk naturally has more sugar just in it. So it can be really great for using it for dessert recipes. But if you can, you know, if you use soy milk, almond milk, cashew milk, any of those, hemp milks, any of those would be fine. So I have today, I think it's an almond milk.
And I'm just trying to like quantify how much miso you put in. That's probably like half a tablespoon.
Yeah, half a tablespoon. You don't need, you know, just a little bit goes a long way. I also tell people when they're starting is that you can always add more later, but you can't really take away. So be kind of conservative when experimenting in the kitchen.
We had that conversation this morning at breakfast. We had steel cut oats, and my daughter was putting some date syrup on it. And she looks at me, she's like, is this enough? I'm like, oh, it's easier to add than to subtract.
Yeah.
And then my son is like, you mean in real life or in mathematics? And I'm like, well, let me think about that. I'm like, mathematics too, it's easier for me to add and subtract. So I don't know. I think that's real. It's easier to add or subtract, even in mathematics.
Brittany, have you ever used the JOI
I have it.
oat milk? So that would be okay if I use the JOI.
Yeah, you can use that's the
Okay.
powdered milk you reconstitute.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Just one ingredient, JOI.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And I mean,
Okay,
there's
wasn't familiar.
so many ways. I mean, in a pinch, if you don't have any plant milk and you're trying to do this, you can take a little bit of almond butter with water in your blender and make it, and then you don't have to strain it. So there's like lots of different hacks and tricks on products that you can buy. So I probably put in about, I would say about 1/4 of a cup of plant milk, and that's really going to help to make the blender work, make it creamy. It's going to thin it out a little bit, but again, you can put the beans in, start your blender, and kind of add as you go. And then last up is really spices. So we have our beans, we have our miso, we put a little bit of plant milk. Do we want to make it tart? Now we could add a little bit of red wine vinegar, lemon juice.
Somebody
Somebody
said lemon juice, somebody said tart.
A little bit of lemon juice, and lemon juice again, you want to be a little conservative about, so just maybe like a splash of lemon juice. And again, you can test. What I like about this and any plant-based cooking is that, you know, you're not going to get sick from testing ingredients.
Right.
You know, you're not going to get salmonella from trying this. So, you know, you can totally taste and tweak as you go. And then for spices, I brought a lot of blends. There's a lot of great SOS free blends that don't have salt in them. And so like Italian seasoning, poultry seasoning, you can find. Those are some options. I have herbs de Provence, which is kind of a Thanksgiving blend. So depending on how you want to season this.
There's a question. Anything that can be done to reduce the side effects of the gastric effects of the bean juice?
For the juice, I would say like soaking your beans
Yeah.
generally is the way I would go. That definitely would kind of take that effect away. And then, if you're looking for aquafaba, you can find alternatives like vegetable broth and things like that.
Absolutely. Maybe not using the whole can of liquid, but just,
Right.
thinning it out like Brittany said.
Yeah. And all right, and then I have onion powder, I have smoked paprika, I even have a spiced Japanese 7-spice blend that's a little bit spicy and salt-free.
Delicious.
Black pepper, of course.
Some of these spices, you don't find it when you go back home.
Can you explain
can
aqua?
Yeah.
Can you explain aqua what? I think it was aquafaba.
Aquafaba is just any can or beans that you make, it's the liquid from it. So if you make it from home in your Instant Pot, it's gonna have that liquid that comes with the beans that it sits in. Or if you buy it in a can, it's what sits in it as well.
Onion powder, they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The name aquafaba, aqua is water, fava is bean, so bean water, and it's brilliant. It can be used as a binder and
You
even
can
like
make-
sometimes an egg substitute in some
Yeah,
recipes.
you can make whipped cream out of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the wonders.
Amazing.
Wondrous thing when you kind of experiment. But yeah, so we'll kind of add. So I generally, a lot of our recipes have onion, garlic, smoked paprika, and black pepper and turmeric sometimes. I was out of garlic powder. I was talking to these ladies about how I'm going grocery shopping after this, and I need to remember to get garlic powder. So you can, and I just eyeball. I mean, when I write recipes, I'm measuring it out for you guys at home. But if I'm not doing anything with recipes and development, I'm just like, oh, that looks like enough. So, it's about having fun. I think for some reason, people get hung up on doing plant-based cooking versus regular cooking, but it's exactly the same. It's just cooking. So just like if you were gonna, Taco Tuesday night before being plant-based, it's just like the same idea after. So you can have fun and experiment and try things out. That's what I'm trying to get to. So I have onion powder. I'm gonna add a little bit of paprika. I like paprika pretty much in everything. We can do a little bit of that spice blend too. I like a little bit of black pepper is always good. But lots of different options. And again, these are just things I had at home, like pulling them out.
So this has I'm looking at it, the Japanese spice blend, chilies, sesame, orange peel, and nori. And that sounds so good.
Yeah, no salt. I mean, this was just
Yeah.
one I found at our local Giant Eagle. So I'm gonna go a little bit less on this because it's spicy, but so I don't go too heavy on that one. Again, you can add. And then other options too is if you want it to have a little bit of sweetness, you could always throw like a pitted date in here. Depending on how you like it. I'm gonna leave it out for today, I think. We're gonna blend this guy up. I got the lid for it, yeah. Grab the lid. All right. Blend this guy. Oh, it's nice and like that took no time at all. I didn't even need the tamper because we had enough liquid in there. And so now I like to, take the lid off and taste. You can kind of see the color. This is kind of like a white creamy color, which is nice, depending on, your preference and what you add. So I'm gonna show you guys. It's nice and thick. And then I could heat this up. See how it's nice and thick still? I can heat this up. I can put this in a mason jar. I can play around with the spice blends. I usually will make a second one that's spicier for my husband because I'm a sissy with spices. So you could always kind of customize from here on out and kind of stir in what you want. But really, really easy just to add like just a general basic sauce. That can go on noodles. It can go on, your grains. It can go as a salad dressing type. And again, depending on what you put in it, I can kind of play around with what I want it to toss it all in. Okay, they always look beautiful right now, but when I get done, it looks like a big mess because I'm just like tossing it all together because who cares what it looks like when you're eating it.
Right.
But yeah. So any questions so far? And then real quick, I'll show you how to do tofu and kind of walk you through what we'll kind of play around with what we should do for the tofu. The dressing lasts about 5 days. I find 5 to 7 days in a stretch. You can freeze it if you wanted to in a pinch, but I just keep it just like the oats. I just keep it like in a little mason jar with a lid in our refrigerator. And we take it as we need. Sometimes if it separates, depending if you added the red wine vinegar to it, you just stir it up or shake it up before you put it on. And you could put nutritional yeast in there. You could do like lots of stuff. So it doesn't, very versatile for whatever you want it for. All right, so we're going to do tofu. And tofu is one of those things, and we talked about the intact grains. Well, tofu and soy, there's intact soy as well. So you can think of edamame, and then you can think of soy pearls, and then tofu, and it kind of goes down the list. I do find that tofu, most people like when they have it correct. It's very tasty and delicious, and you guys saw it in the burrito bowls. But you can also have it for dinner, and I like it because in a pinch, it's so easy to like whip together. It's one of the things that when I don't feel like cooking, I generally make. And believe me, there are days I don't feel like cooking.
That doesn't compute to me, right?
Yeah. Usually after I've made a million recipes, I don't want to taste it. Till I figure out that dishwasher that I need to hire. That's my least favorite part. So I just have a block of tofu, and what I'm going to do is, someone asked this in my Facebook group, how do you drain it? And I never thought to like walk someone through the steps. And so literally I just take a little slit on the side, and you'll see that some water starts to like pop out. You generally do this over a sink, so I'm going to walk over to the sink. But you're just going to drain it out from that little hole. And then that way, it doesn't make a huge mess. It's really.
While she's doing that, I'll just add, so what's another great feature of tofu is that it's an excellent source of calcium. So it sits in a calcium citrate bath, and that allows the tofu to absorb calcium. So for individuals who are often trying to find nutritional sources of calcium, tofu is great. Yes.
And really it tastes like, I feel like tofu is the chicken of being plant-based. It like tastes whatever, everything tastes like chicken, everything can taste like tofu. It's really what you marinate and do it with. So this again, could be breakfast, could be lunch, could be dinner, can be a great snack. If you have kids, it's very tasty. Get off of your tofu fear of trying, it's delicious.
There's a question here. Talking about calcium citrate, can we fortify our own plant milks?
Oh, great question. I don't know. I would imagine there is a way to do that. I'm just not familiar with that process.
Yeah, I haven't personally tried it either. So what I'm doing right now is I just took it out. You don't need a tofu press, don't need another gadget. It's fine, it'll work, it's great. I'm just taking it out and just cutting them into like slabs. And so these are great if you season them and you're looking for like we make an eggless Benedict. And just like she did with the tofu scramble, you can, put the spices on, cook it, and then you have like a slab, depending on how big you make it, of your eggs on your, English muffin, and you can make a whole sauce for it. So it's so versatile. And so what I usually do is I usually just cut them into like little cubes. You don't have to do anything pretty. It's gonna look beautiful and come out fine. They're all like little cubes now. Separate them in half. Again, you can season them how you want. You could take the part of it in a bowl and season it spicier and part of it not. We do that often. But I love this because you're just literally, and you can, I think, buy them even cubed already. So I've seen them in the grocery store, so you can even skip this step. This was extra firm tofu, but you could play around with firm.
I was just gonna say, because people might sometimes also ask me like, oh, there's so many different types of tofu, silken tofu, firm, extra firm. And so for the scramble, I agree, like extra firm works really is the best for that. You can do it with firm. And then if you're doing a sauce, or in a smoothie, silken tofu.
Yeah, desserts are great for silken. Yeah. So this is just a cube, like I didn't do anything else.
I'm moving the base of the blender so you can see.
And then I just put it all, it's on parchment paper to make it super easy. My husband can do this, so all of you guys can do it. It's one of the dishes I've taught him. And then all we're gonna do now is season it and then bake it. And like, can't get easier than that. You don't have to pat anything down. All of the liquid from it's gonna make everything stick to it. So literally I would go over to my spice cabinet, I would pick, you know, whatever I want to be, maybe we'll do like Italian and poultry today. If you wanted to put miso in this, you could like thin it out with water and kind of make that the marinade, but I find that I don't even, you know, it's so easy just to use different spices you have.
Is there a rule of thumb as to what tofu to do for different dishes?
I would just say like stick with the silken for desserts or smoothies or something like that's more sweet and you know, firm to extra firm for everything else.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a great.
And you could do the same thing with soy curls, like just rehydrate your soy curls in water, you can shred them, you'd add your seasonings, you could bake them, do everything the same way. So that's just the seasoning, and I just take my hands on my baking sheet, don't have to dirty another dish, kind of, you know, marinate the tofu, make sure the spices are coated, and then I just spread them out so they all, you know, get a little bit of a gap to breathe. And then this goes in the oven. Now I generally do bake my tofu and any of my, you know, nuts and anything like that at a lower temperature to avoid glycotoxins. So I generally recommend cooking tofu at 250, just like longer. It turns out the same. You know, I'm not really a proprietor of somebody like air frying tofu and getting it crispy because it creates those. So I just like slowly bake it, which is perfect for the time I'm getting everything else ready. These come out and it's delicious and great. So again, if you are afraid of tofu or tempeh or anything like that, definitely give it a try because it's a great source that you can, you know, it's the chicken of being plant-based, right? You can flavor it for however you'd like.
It really takes on the flavor.
There's a
Yeah.
question, is this a recipe for weight loss?
So I mean, I think in general, soy has a little bit more fat intake. So just be mindful of that. But I think, you know, if you're, you know, I wouldn't want to eat the entire packet of tofu in moderation, it's fine. So I definitely ate this while I was losing my weight and getting healthy. I also really was, one of my goals was to, and still is my goal, to avoid breast cancer and to do everything in my power to, you know, do that. And soy is so helpful for people that have, you know, have a predeposition for breast cancer or possibly having that. So I definitely try to eat soy for that reason as well.
And men can benefit from the anti-cancer effects of soy too. So men get the benefit of a lower incidence of prostate cancer.
Really easy, delicious. And so now, you know, if you are afraid of trying tofu, that's what I suggest is trying it an easy way in the scramble or this, and you really have a great meal. And for me, these are so easy to like snack on and travel with and really add to a filling plate that you have. So you have your beans
This could just go right on top.
yeah, you could add it on top. This is also, it's just packed full of flavor. So sometimes I notice I don't even necessarily need a sauce. If I have it, you can marinate it in a sauce if you wanted to and then cook it. But really great, too quick, really easy, simple lunch or dinners options. I would say usually around like 25 to 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, you know, depending on how impatient I am, pulling it out from the oven.
1/4 pack for one person.
I would have to look. I ripped right through.
The serving size.
Yeah. It's about 3 ounces. So there's 4.5 servings per container.
What's nice, if you make the whole thing, then you have leftovers, and so you don't have to keep on cooking de novo each day. So, and yeah, you just find different ways to
Yeah. So
mix it in your food.
so when we do it at home, like, you know, my husband is the never ending eater. He probably could eat a whole block of tofu and like still be hungry later. But I generally will take, yeah, like about a little section that I take off for mine. It's not very.
Do you want to repeat the question just in case? people
Yeah.
can't see the
It
chat?
says once out of the oven, is it crispy on the outside? It doesn't get super crispy because again, we're trying to avoid those glycotoxins. I know for me, from the research I've done, that's, you know, unfortunately, I know everyone loves their air fryer, but when you're just specifically when you're doing things like that have high protein, high fat, you know, it's better for it to be a little bit softer. So I'm not necessarily trying to make like a tofu nugget in there, but it still does get like browned and nice. So it won't get 100% crispy if you're used to air frying it. That's a great question though. Okay, but yeah, just really quick, easy meals that you can make and have fun with, and you can do a variety of different ways. Doesn't, you know, you can open up your refrigerator right now, and I'm sure you can do the exact same things that we showed you guys here today. So yeah, does anyone have any other questions? All right, well, I don't have anything else. That was kind of my plan today, was to show you guys just a quick and easy what you can do with leftovers. Make a bowl, it can be in a bowl, not a plate, vice versa. For the gray, you said the gravy, you said mushrooms. Yes. So we have a great, on the Drudy family website, there's a mushroom gravy you can Google, but it's with, you know, cooked mushrooms and vegetable broth and seasonings. You might use that herbs de Provence Thanksgiving in a jar seasoning, which is fantastic. We do that over potatoes and anything, lentil loaves and anything you can think of for a gravy. You might be able to use those lentils
Oh, yeah.
in that gravy.
Yes.
That would probably go over well. All right, well, thank you guys for joining us. We had so much fun cooking with you guys.
Yeah,
today.
thank you, everybody, for walking in. And, you know, they mentioned before that they're gonna be sending out an email with the recipes, the slide show too. So a lot of really healthy, nutritious recipes that you can try at home that also aren't just daunting, right? Like this is stuff that are familiar ingredients that you can put together, and maybe you saw a way to use, right, poultry seasoning in a way that you would have never thought. Just throw it on top of your tofu and bake it. So thank you both for being here. And if you guys try the recipes, let us know, and look forward to future collaborations.
I have to say that Brittany is genius at transforming recipes that you had 10 or 15 years ago at potlucks or holiday dinners. She makes them into whole food plant-based, and you really do an amazing job.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can have those traditional family recipes, just tweak them a little bit and they can be healthy and nutritious. So
Check out. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Your recipes are just so delightful and
Oh,
delicious
thank you guys.
and nutritious.
Well, there's so much resource too on the Pittsburgh Plant-Based Pittsburgh website. I know there's a whole recipe page. So if you're stumped for recipes, you don't know what to do tonight for dinner, you definitely have options. And I know Sally is going to send out this email tonight or tomorrow when the recording downloads, so you guys will have it.
And so you guys are plantbasedpittsburgh.com.
Yep.
Right. And I'm summonhealth.com if you ever want to check out my website. And thank you, everybody, for joining, for taking time out of your Saturday. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
take care.
Stay warm.
All right.
All right, so I think if Sally's still here, she'll shut off the recording. She has the master class, but thank you guys so much for joining us. We're gonna start cleaning up. All right, and you guys have a good rest of your day. See you guys.